The Cryptonaut Podcast is brought to you by Cryptid Crate. Visit cryptidcrate.com and enter our promo code GRAMPUS, that's GRAMPUS, at checkout to get 10% off the entire life of your Cryptid Crate subscription. All right, before we get started with this week's episode, I want to remind everyone to check out our TeePublic shop and get yourself some merch. The links for that will be in the description of this podcast. And to help me pitch the TeePublic shop, I have a very special guest with me. Very special guest. What is your name?
Evelyn Roaster.
Evelyn, how old are you?
I'm 4.
So you were telling me earlier that you had an idea for the TeePublic shop. What is that idea?
My cousin, I'm getting her a Christmas present from the Cryptonaut TeePublic shop.
So you're going to get your cousin a present for Christmas from the TeePublic shop? Yeah. So are you saying that a Cryptonaut merch might be a good idea for people that are out there looking for gifts for their loved ones?
Yep.
All right, cool. So I think you have shilled enough for me today. I think the good listeners will appreciate that. And we're going to get started with the episode. And Evelyn, this week we're talking about a witch. How do you feel about witches?
I don't like them, but they're kind of cool.
You don't like them, but they're kind of cool. So we have a family rule in Evelyn. If for some reason, if you find a witch under your bed, what do? You
tell Daddy and say to backwards, and if it doesn't work, you're selling the house.
So you tell Daddy, I say the Lord's Prayer backwards, and if it doesn't work, we're selling the house. Excellent, honey. You are on board. Thank you very much for helping me out, Evelyn. And without further ado, Christopher, cue that creepy music. Before we get started, I would like to say that we have a cat that follows us on Instagram.
A cat.
A cat.
Oh, good.
I'm delighted.
Yeah. No, it's a cat.
Like an actual feline.
A for real cat that follows us on Instagram.
Well, that cat has taste.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't sure how the cat used Instagram. I don't know if I should question that or not, though.
I just go with it.
Yeah, let it happen, man.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was animal friendly.
Yeah, animals have accounts.
That's woke as fuck.
That is. That's, as you would say, woke as the Dickens.
Mm-hmm.
And welcome to the Cryptonaut Podcast. I'm Mark Storrs, and with me as always is...
I'm Chris Carnosali.
And...
Rob Morphy.
Thank you for joining us. Be sure to follow us. Speaking of cats on the Instagrams, the Twitters, the Facebooks. Like, follow, comment, DM us. We're there. We're talking. We're hanging out. We're doing our thing. Be sure to leave ratings and reviews for this podcast on the iTunes and the Apple Podcast apps. That is always greatly appreciated. And... we have a bit of a new format change. We're going to be doing the reviews at the end of the show after the outro music. And we also might slip some bloopers in there here and there. So be sure to stick around after the outro music to hear those. And this week, we got something kind of similar, kind of a little bit familiar to us here.
Well, the backstory for this is that Pod 20, and for those that might not be versed in us numerically, that was I believe the Flying Fiends of Mexico City.
Yeah. Yep.
One of our listeners, Christina, got a hold of us about an account that she remembered from her childhood living in Venezuela that that podcast, number 20, inspired her to think of it. So she sent that on to us, and she has had infinite patience in my constant stream of questions. So I've been picking her brain for a while, and I got to give her mad credit. So I was able to get this really crazy, frightening, genuinely freaky case down thanks to a listener. So this represents not only something that was inspired by something we've done before, but our very first listener-fed pod.
Nice. Awesome.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. Speaking of listener-fed, shout-outs to Laura Cram.
The cookies.
Oh,
The cookies.
delectable.
So good, dude.
If you ask, you will receive.
In that Yeti card, Dorbs.
Dude, yeah, the card was
totally
amazing.
adorbs.
I mean, I didn't think I was into crafts. I just don't think about it. But when I saw that, I'm like, Absolutely, I'm into
Yeah,
crafts.
it's dope.
Yeah.
The mountains, the Yeti itself,
Totally.
the
It was
great.
handwriting. It was lovely across the board. Thank you so much, Laura.
Yes.
And the cookies are super delicious.
Oh,
Yes.
totes.
And we're currently having a discussion about who is going to have parental rights over the tin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
we're
having
gonna-
shared custody of the tin.
Definitely.
That's literally the first thing I asked. I'm like, so how do we do this? 4 months apiece?
I guess, yeah,
Or
4
like,
months
how do
out
we-
of the year. We just have to pass
Like,
it back and
I already
forth.
have a display of it, so maybe I should get the first 4.
Okay, so Chris can get the first 4 months, and then I'll take the next 4 months, then Rob can get the next 4, and then we'll just round robin it over a 12-month period, or, a whole year.
It'll
Yeah.
be like our own personal Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I like that. It's our own personal Stanley Cup, and we received that on International Podcast Day.
Oh.
Yeah, which I'm currently
No,
celebrating.
you currently have been shoving it down our throat nonstop since we got here
That's
and
fine.
asking us why
I
we're
know.
not partying hard
I know.
enough.
Mark just
for
let us out of the
International
corner
Podcast
that
Day.
we've been standing in for an hour.
I know. We had timeouts. We had everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to stand in that corner.
Hashtag International Podcast Day. Let's get started with the Vengeful Bruja of Rubio. During the late 1990s, a Venezuelan family endured a months-long reign of terror at the hands of a vengeful witch who assumed the form of a diabolical winged chimera in order to torment not only the man who betrayed her, but his family as well.
It gets creepy.
Chimera.
A lover scorned.
Oh, the worst kind. And it goes deep. It goes deeper than that.
All right.
But first, let's paint a little picture here. Established in 1794 and located in the Andes Mountains, just east of the Colombian border, is the Venezuelan town of Rubio. Widely considered to be an isolated backwater by the rest of the nation, the city of bridges, as it is known, due to its many bridges.
Oh, Jeff Bridges?
Due to its
The
many
city
Jeff
of
Bridges.
many
Yeah.
Jeff Bridges.
Yep.
I like that.
All the Jeff Bridges
just
look alike
clones.
go there.
Nice.
That's your favorite thing. You should want to go
The
there.
city of Bridges still had substantial swaths of its original 18th century architecture, and locals insisted that strange things were prone to happen in the old part of town. It would be in this time-worn section of the city that a terrifying series of events would take place that would force a frightened family to seek help first from the Roman Catholic Church. Then, when this proved to be ineffectual, from the very same source of insidious power that had bedeviled them to begin with, black magic.
Oh, you start with
yeah.
the Vatican.
You start with the church.
You have to
Yeah.
fight the fire with the fire. That's the
Fight
deal.
fire with fire, fight.
It's 1 for 1. They call that in nature.
1 for 1.
Yep.
It's a principle I think Newton came with first,
Okay.
with a hard vengeance. The Mendoza family lived together as an extended family unit encompassing 3 generations from grandparents to grandchildren and various aunts and uncles. Their home was designed in the regional colonial style, which consisted of a tall set of double doors that opened into a narrow corridor, which led to an open-air rectangular courtyard, then to the rest of the house. So I really had Christina elaborate on this for me.
Okay.
It's sort of like a series of townhouses would be, and I guess
Yeah.
America, where the sidewalls of the houses touch,
Right.
and the fronts are touching, but you go down this narrow corridor into this open courtyard, and then the rest of the rooms sort of go out from around there.
Sounds like a nice floor plan.
Yeah, and there's like a garden in the middle
Yeah.
and patio area. It
I'm in the
sounds
middle
beautiful,
of. I'm
actually.
possibly might be remodeling soon, so I might take some of this architecture.
Absolutely.
Probably not. House too small. Continue, Robert.
This exposed space in the center of the home contained a garden and a patio, and was designed with the intention of keeping the rest of the rooms cool in the blistering heat. No one could have suspected that it would also provide access to an unthinkable horror hell-bent on terrorizing everyone who lived within.
See, you go for the nice, easy breezy way
it's
of living,
just-
and the next thing you know, you're inviting the devil.
You've got a big open hole
Yeah.
in the middle of your
Yeah.
house through which evil can climb.
Yeah.
That's what
Nothing
happens.
good's coming through that hole. It's all evil all the time.
Well, sometimes sunlight and a good breeze.
Yeah, some things.
You know, I mean, occasionally
well,
good
you're
things.
a half glass full kind of guy. I
Yeah.
appreciate that on International Podcast Day. Thank you.
Oh, my God.
In 1997. Before there was an International Podcast Day, I might add.
It's true.
In 1997, one of the uncles who lived in the house was a bachelor in his late 20s named Juan. Juan was the youngest of his siblings and was known as a man about town. I think we know what that means.
Oh,
That's a
man.
cagey euphemism.
man.
Yeah. Is he living that whole life? Is that what he's doing?
Yes,
All right. Well, hey, man,
At the
man
time-
your 20s. It's what you can
it's
do.
true. He's in his 20s. But he's still... All right, we'll get into it.
All right.
We'll get into Juan and his exploits.
No.
At the time, he was wooing a pious and unnamed young lady who was in her early 20s. pious being the key word. A good
This is like a
God-fearing lass.
movie.
It really does.
Like I feel like it's the you get the opposite. There's a thing. You get the opposite.
Dirty Dancing.
It was really vague. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't go Dirty Dancing style.
Oh, they're not going to dance?
They might dance.
With the Kellermans?
They might dance with them as well.
Okay. All right.
But it takes a sour note.
Yeah.
The family legend has it that he seduced this young woman and convinced her to abandon her vow of premarital chastity with the promise that they would soon be wed. The devoutly religious woman was reluctant, but she was also smitten with the strapping wand.
This is completely a movie.
Gave up the chastity?
Predictably, the love-struck woman fell for Juan's charms, and just as predictably, this rustic Lothario did not make good on his promise to wed her.
Rustic Lothario.
You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
That's awesome.
In fact, not long after their physical consummation, he ended their relationship and continued to indulge his tomcat ways.
Oh, man. Jeez, it was just a hump and dump? That's it?
That's it. That's how Juan rolls.
Juan.
It's
Dude,
97 Juan.
he's a man about town.
I don't know how 2018 Juan's doing it now. Maybe he's a more noble soul, but 97 Juan was a turd burglar. I'm just saying.
right,
that.
Well, I feel like he's probably just an internet burglar.
Needless to say, the woman was completely devastated by Juan's betrayal. Not only had he taken advantage of her naive affection and left her to suffer the heartbreak of the loss of the man whom she had considered to be her one true love, but he had also caused her to break her oath to God in forsaking her virginity before her wedding day. In a culture as deeply steeped in Catholicism as Venezuela, that branded her an unchaste woman. And in a community as small as Rubio, that meant that everyone would know about it. She was no longer fit for marriage in the eyes of every available Christian suitor, and in the eyes of her beloved church, she had committed a dreadful sin.
This is kind of heavy.
It is heavy, but
It's
we're
super
talking
heavy.
we're talking Venezuela.
Yeah,
we're
90s,
talking
I know, 97,
deeply,
I know.
deeply Catholic countries. It's the same in Italy. It's the same in Mexico, in a lot of deeply Catholic countries. And there's a bias. The woman gets shit heaped on her that the man never has to face up to, ever. The guy can just roll around and it's like,
Yeah, well, that's the deal, yeah.
jerk. But the woman, if she, wiles off and follows her heart for 5 minutes, it can just ruin the rest of her life.
Oh, damn.
There's a lot of deeply rooted problems in this.
Okay.
One of
All
them
right.
is going to be a witch.
Yeah. Right. And she can't be just like mildly disappointed and then like it has to be a bad thing to get where we're going.
Well, it's like almost every Indonesian horror film we've ever seen.
I was going to say, this sounds like
whatever.
Manigal.
Where the good woman, is done wrong.
Yeah.
And
what
happens.
You got to raise something.
Her long-cherished dreams of a husband and a family and a respected role in the community and the church that she loved now lay dashed at her feet. With everything that she treasured most ripped away from her in just a matter of moments, the spurned, furious, and heartsick woman decided that Juan Mendoza had to pay for everything he had so cruelly stolen from her.
See?
Dude.
After years of devotion to the teachings of Christ, she would now go down a path that once must have seemed unthinkable to her. She would embrace the dark arts and twist the ritual she had held so dearly to new and nefarious purposes.
The fucking
Exactly.
devil.
The devil.
When Jesus doesn't help, you got a friend below.
Wow.
And he shows up
What?
for you
What?
every time.
I'm not sure.
Every time.
I'm not sure we're talking active Satanism yet. I'm going to get into that
Just
a little
saying.
You got a friend below.
You got a friend below.
Just remember, kids.
I expect Randy Newman to sing that. It's like right out of the
got
Toy
a
Story
friend
5 second.
below.
I know.
Got a friend below.
When you're down and out.
And you're feeling kind of dark and weird, and your wand humped and dumped you. Come to me, friend below. I'm a terrible Randy Newman.
Yeah, but
I mean, really.
Randy Newman's a terrible Randy
I'm
Newman,
an
in all
even
fairness.
worse. Okay, so I might be better. Okay.
You're the better, worse than better Randy Newman,
I'll
if
take
that
it.
makes sense.
I'll take it.
In so doing, and by that I mean going down this dark path,
Okay.
this broken shell of a woman would sacrifice the most precious parts left to her, her health, her psyche, and perhaps her very soul, for one single all-encompassing purpose.
Revenge.
Nice.
The vengeance.
Yeah.
Respect.
Le
Respect the
revenge.
revenge.
Unlike many traditions, I'm going to give you a little background in magic here. Once again, thank you to Christina. Unlike many traditions, such as Santeria, which holds that magic can be used for positive or negative purposes, all magic in Venezuela is considered black magic.
Well, yeah.
Boom. That's it.
Out the gate?
What?
Out of the gate, it's all evil? I mean, this really?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
I
it.
mean, if you're a Catholic,
it's
there's
God
no
or the
other.
evil. That's
there's
it.
not good magic.
Okay.
That having been said,
Daj.
many otherwise devout Catholics will employ the use of a witch or bruja in order to improve their lives or relationships in small ways, like candles for, to make your hubby stray less. Little things like that. It's one of those things where, while it is frowned on actively by the society and the church, a lot of people indulge in it as a natural part of the course of their lives without it getting too nefarious.
Okay.
Venezuelan magical customs are a synthesis of indigenous occult practices, European influences, and the perversion of the Roman Catholic ritual. And the scorned woman knew that her grandmother was skilled in their use. She also knew that such abilities had a tendency to run in the family.
A whole family of witches.
So
Nice.
grandma's a witch. She was a good church-going girl. She got done horribly wrong by Juan.
Guess
She's
what?
like, Abuela, school me.
Juan should have done some research. Is her grandmother a witch? She got a family full of witches.
Maybe I should think
I
this
might
through.
want to skip this one.
Yeah, you just don't think with your dick when you're fucking dealing with witches. That's a bad
I
saying.
mean, that's a golden rule I think that we should all live by.
Yeah, that's a T-shirt.
That might be a good T-shirt in our T-Public shop.
We cannot know whether this anguished woman's grandmother encouraged her to abandon the tenets of her faith and take up the practice of witchcraft, or if she tried to talk her out of it. But we do know that whatever her opinion was, she introduced her granddaughter to the world of dark magic. We also know that the rejected woman proved to be a quick study.
Best grandma ever.
Or worst,
I don't
depending
know.
on where
Kinda
you're
cool.
going.
Grandma's a witch and you're like helping. She's like, yeah, of course. Let's
Yeah.
do this.
I need a demon. Sweet. Here we
Yeah,
go.
there you go. Go to grandma.
It's about time.
Yeah, exactly.
You almost kind of think that's how it would go. Like,
Yeah.
just
I've waited for
like,
this day.
You've rejected
Thank
the family
God.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come home.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let's do some cool witch shit.
The first inkling the Mendoza family had that something was amiss would occur on nights when Juan would come home after an evening of flirtatious revelry. Various family members would attest to being woken up by thuds of something heavy being dragged across the terracotta tile and tin roof. It's a combination of two really incongruent materials.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it serves a purpose.
Yeah.
These noises were accompanied by the eerie sounds of scraping claws and the distinct sense of rotting flesh and something the witnesses described as being vaguely metallic. That's an odd 1-2 punch in the nasal
Yeah.
cavities.
Yeah.
Like, my sinuses don't want that. I don't
No.
think that's never going to be a Yankee Candle that I'm going to have to rush out to get.
Yeah. Or maybe it's not that bad.
Rotten flesh and vague metal.
A big metal. Yeah. It just sounds like a bad beer.
Yeah.
It does. It's like a black metal candle. Yeah, there you go.
You're right.
Yeah.
It was after one such evening, Juan's sister Rita, her husband George, and two of her sisters that were not named, so 4 members of the family, cautiously made their way toward the courtyard in order to catch a glimpse of what it was making that infernal rooftop racket. The onlookers half expected to see a sloth or a possum scuttling about, but were utterly unprepared for the sight which befell them. Perched on the roof above the courtyard was the plumage-covered form of a gigantic vulture. But this was no ordinary scavenger of the skies. This carrion feeder had huge talons not only on its feet, but also inexplicably on the ends of its wings. And most disturbingly, where its small beaked head ought to have been, there were now the filthy features of Juan's former lover.
What?
So, there we go.
Bird-faced woman.
A lot like what was seen in the cemetery in Mexico.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
In episode 20, that fleshy bird body
Yeah.
with a human face
With
and
the
like the
head- yeah.
scraggly,
Talons,
nasty
yeah.
hair.
The face.
And she was telling me that the filthiness, the dirt, that is considered to be amoral in a cultural context in Venezuela. So when witches appear in this form, they tend to have filthy faces because that somehow is like wearing the evil on their flesh. So I thought that was an
wow.
interesting note.
Yeah,
I mean, you
that's
see
pretty
witches
cool.
depicted as, nasty, unkempt all the time, but I never really associated that. I mean, I guess they say cleanliness is next to godliness. And I thought maybe the scragglier something looks in an artistic format, the scarier it is.
Well,
But I
sure.
never actively associated the lack of being clean with an unclean soul.
But now we do.
But now we do, and forevermore.
Your soul shall be forever
The
dirty.
family stared in horror as the bird-bodied witch leered down at them, her red eyes glowing like diabolical embers. The family stared in horror as the bird-bodied witch leered down at them, her red eyes glowing like diabolical embers. One must envision their retreat as swift, with doors and windows being sealed against the supernatural onslaught and many prayers being issued forth, pleading for an early dawn. When they awoke, the witch was gone, but their nightmare was far from over. That's called foreshadowing, fuckers.
Yeah, this woman's not going away. She's already made the oath to become the bird woman.
Yeah.
The vulture of revenge for Juan, and she's not leaving without a fight.
You are predicting the future, my friend.
I am.
The Mendozas understood that physical transformation took very advanced dark magic, and that those who utilize it do so at tremendous cost and grave personal risk from even more nefarious forces. So the way she explained it was, you not only, I mean, it takes a toll on your health and your sanity and very likely your soul, but also when you start playing with the kind of forces that allow you to do this, then other real shady demonic things can start playing hell with you. So the fact that she was so committed to vengeance on Juan and family, the Mendozas, shows that she just gave no fucks about anything about herself anymore.
She's 100% in.
And that's scary.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, well, you gotta
I
know
mean,
what
she's
you gotta
got
go
commitment
Yeah.
to revenge.
They knew that what their brother had done to this woman had left her in a place where she no longer cared about her own physical or spiritual well-being, as aforementioned, and that made her a very dangerous creature indeed. As terrifying as the ordeal had been for his family, the stubborn Juan was not to be deterred from his nocturnal carousing. He's a player.
He's not stopping.
He's like, well, it's there, but it's not here now.
I mean, you'd think. If you fucked around enough that you caused a woman to go to black magic, give up everything, and turn into a vulture that terrorized your family at night, you'd be like, might want to make better choices. You
would
know?
think.
Yeah.
But you're not 97 Juan.
That's right. It's true.
He's a different breed of cat.
Yeah.
He is.
And each time he stepped out with another young lady, the enraged witch would return to torment both him and his loved ones. Family members would claim to hear an almost cacophonous din of flapping whenever they left the house after dark to run errands, and would return home as quickly as possible, looking over their shoulders the whole way. But that was not the worst of it. Night after night, this nightmarish apparition would return, sometimes in the hybrid form of the human-headed vulture, other times floating in front of the house in a tattered death shroud of rags, with her eyes glowing and long black rooster-like talons in place of her fingernails. All of the members of the family, from the eldest to George and Rita's children, would take turns peeking out from inside the towering 100-year-old thick-set wooden doors that separated them from this unholy terror. If the witch caught sight of them, she'd soar at the door with an unbelievable speed, smashing into it with her black talons penetrating the heavy wood and petrifying those inside. So can you imagine that? Just this witch slamming against the door, and you see these, like, it's totally Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Just these talons jonking through it. Oh, that's horrible.
Would you be like, hey, Juan, why don't you keep it in your pants, bud?
Yeah.
Like, let's
No, at this
stop.
point, it's intervention time.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
the rest of the family's got to sit Juan down and be like, son, you fucked up.
Yeah, dude.
Juan,
like-
look what you did. It's at our door, currently attacking us with its talons.
It's fucking terrible. Yeah. When she retracted her talons for the last time before the dawn, one of the hook claws remained wedged in the door, leaving the Mendozas a gruesome souvenir of that night's ordeal. The Mendozas lived in a state of near constant dread. They knew that Juan had done this woman a terrible wrong, but they also knew that they could no longer pay for his sins and that something would have to be done to end this witch's reign of terror. Even the once carefree Juan began to fear for his safety, but even when he stopped going out, the supernatural stalking continued. It was then that the devout family went to their church, Iglesia Santa Barbara, and took a meeting with their parish priest. Unlike the dedicated protectors of their flock found in so many post-exorcist cinematic endeavors, this particular priest was reticent to get involved in the affair, claiming that Juan deserved his lot for what he had done to the woman.
Oh, man.
Priest is like,
What?
you guys all have to suffer.
Yeah.
One of
Sorry.
you's a dick.
Juan makes bad choices with his penis. Don't know what to tell you.
The priest also confided that even if he wanted to help, he was not sure if he was strong enough to go up against a black witch harboring so much rage. The Mendozas implored the rector. There were, after all, small children living in the house. The priest finally relented and blessed a rosary and some holy water for them. He instructed the Mendozas to hang the rosary on the inside of the front door and to rub the holy water on the beams of the house that held up the roof. The family returned home immediately, did as they were instructed, and settled in for another night of endless torment. The witch returned as she did almost every night, but now she was unable to land on the roof. The power of Christ compels you.
Ah, no landing.
It just apparently the holy water shot up the rafters.
All right.
Juiced. You know, I can't help but to see this in like 80s Ghostbuster style optical effects.
Oh, yeah, no,
where it's like
absolutely.
green lightning going across the roof. Like every time she touches it,
there's
it's
a glow,
flurry
it's a
of
zap.
sparks. Yeah, exactly. It's basically a giant fucking bug zapper now. Frustrated, she charged the front door, but before she could connect, she would slam into an unseen wall. Enraged, Bruja soared around the house, unable to touch it, but still refusing to leave. So now you just got a super pissed witch.
Yeah.
But you've got a barrier.
But you have a barrier. So that's a small comfort, at least. This continued for weeks. A never-ending nightmare.
Like, there's no, like, why could you, like, if you know the routine, why wouldn't you, like, set a trap or...
Well, the priest did what he was going to do, and it wasn't
He gave
honestly
him
all that much.
The protection in the house, but doesn't mean it's going to stop her.
That, but it doesn't mean you can't get a pitchfork or a net or something.
Oh, like actually like
a trap.
Like attack it, right?
Yeah. No, they
Okay.
just let it fly around instead of trying to do anything.
I mean, I don't know witchery and whatnot, but can you shoot a witch?
I don't know how that works.
Does it work?
I mean, if they can transform their body magically, maybe they're protected magically from traditional terrestrial weapons.
it could be, but why not try?
If it was going on for weeks and we got the barrier, I'm like, all right, cool, but she's still coming back. Like, we might have to think
Well, that's
about
what I mean.
artillery
Like,
or
weeks.
something. Like,
Well, there it is.
Well, I
Yeah.
don't know if the traditions in Venezuela are the same, but apparently they could have reversed the Lord's Prayer. But then again,
That's right,
that
drop a
comes
witch.
to the same danger. You drop a witch, you better have something to do with it.
yeah,
You better be prepared to deal with said dropped witch.
that's right. All
Well,
right.
this is when they start realizing they have to take matters into their own hands. So you guys are right in your frustration.
All right.
As I said, this continued for weeks. As relieved as the Mendozas were that the witch could no longer make physical contact with their home, they were still prisoners from dusk till dawn. And they knew that if they were ever forced to leave in the cover of darkness, that this evil apparition would be waiting for them. It was then that they decided that drastic measures were in order. The Mendozas began to ask their friends and family what they should do, and they began to hear rumors of an immensely powerful, old, black witch who lived a Spartan existence alone in the mountains outside of Rubio. Where else would she live? Not in a condo.
No.
It's going to be in a
Yeah,
shit shack
of course.
You have
in the
to.
middle of the forest, in the middle of a mountain,
Yeah.
with a fucking cauldron and all sorts of ill shit.
That's the deal.
It's just the way it has to be. She was not only highly regarded for her occult skill set, but maintained a nearly legendary status as, and I quote, the ultimate anti-witch witch.
Whoa. The
I know.
Wait a minute.
Whoa, witch hunter witch.
She is the ultimate anti-witch,
witch.
comma, witch.
Yeah.
So she's
She's a
like
witch who is the ultimate anti-witch.
anti-witch. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. That's geez. Witch finder general witch.
Yeah.
All right.
Basically.
Cool.
The Mendozas knew that their chosen path would be both dangerous and expensive, but they had finally had enough, and they sent Juan into the desolate mountain pass in order to secure her assistance in banishing this incessant, flapping horror from their lives. Whether it was Juan's impassioned pleas or merely the size of his purse that got the job done, the old Bruja agreed to help. She told him to return the following night with the witch's talon, a bottle of the most expensive red wine he could find, and a personal offering, which was not revealed.
Couple cash, get some money, get some booze, something else.
Something private to you.
Yeah. Not a bad way to
And
make
the
a living.
talon from the witch.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Good thing he got
Juan
it.
returned with the requested materials, surely wary of an attack from above the entire journey, and the crone began the cleansing ritual. The ceremony was essentially an anti-mass, with prayers being offered to saints not recognized by the Catholic Church. I don't understand what that means. Like, is it
Saints,
alternate saints that did good shit, but that like just didn't make the cut, or some nefarious shit?
Yeah.
Maybe
gotta
it's
be
the
just
saints that no one talks about.
No, it's the jerks throughout history.
Oh,
probably.
Okay.
It's weird.
The jerks throughout history.
That's the anti.
Well, it has to be. Why would you
Saints.
invoke saint? They're still saints. You wouldn't invoke
Right.
Yeah, no, they're not.
good people.
I mean, you never hear of anti-saints. Like, I don't know much about Satanism, but do they have a pantheon of anti-saints?
No.
Are you sure?
Positive?
How do you know?
I know.
Are
But
all
this is
black
not-
masses the same?
but this
they
is
can't
not-
be.
No,
This-
they're all
this
no.
is
It depends on what you believe in.
An inversion of Catholicism in a lot of ways, but not in the sense that we think of Satanism.
Right.
Like, it's not worshiping the devil. It's just taking the European rituals, combining it with the rituals of indigenous peoples, and just sort of flipping it on its ass and doing.
So they're not going like full like Anton LaVey super awesome black mass. They're just doing the anti.
Yeah, it's funny. It's black magic, but it's not necessarily satanic, is what I
Right.
mean.
All right.
Yeah. Well, if it's anti that, then by default it has to be.
I know that's where.
Like, how
I
can it
know.
not
Yeah,
be?
That's why I say it's not necessarily, but there was no mention of Satan. It's just. But you're right. When you
It's got to
when
come
you
from
do an
somewhere. Like,
inversion of
yeah, it's the. I mean,
it's hard to wrap. It's hard, at least for a Westerner that was raised Christian, to wrap your
Right.
head around that.
Right.
The old witch dipped the talon into the red wine, which, in the same as Catholic ritual, served as sort of a transubstantiation for the blood of Christ. Then said the prayers backwards. Juan then made his personal offering and drank from the goblet of wine. The old Bruja then cursed the tormenting witch with her own claw, putting a hex on her.
Oh, curse the witch who curses you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Well said. The witch wrapped the talon in a leather band and told Juan to hang the newly minted talisman on the front door. Juan thanked the elder occultist and quickly made his way home, where he hung the talon on the same nail as the blessed rosary. That's an odd juxtaposition.
I feel like
the
the
Catholic Church blessed rosary and
With
the reverse
the-
hex.
the
that
they
talon.
shouldn't work together. Like in D&D terms, I feel like that would be a contradiction of
forces.
special bonuses.
Probably, yeah, I guess it would be, wouldn't
Maybe.
it? Yeah, I mean, I guess it would.
But maybe real magic does not work in D&D terms. Maybe
true.
you can hybridize all sorts of shit.
Only works in D&D terms.
After he put the reliquary with the reliquary on the door, he and the rest of this family prayed that all of their effort and money had not been spent in vain. A few nights later would be the first test of the veteran Bruja's magical skills. The jilted witch descended from the darkened sky as she had so many times before, but this time something different happened. The terrible red-eyed phantasm that had loomed above them suddenly collapsed in a heap on the ground just beyond the front door. She was no longer the picture of unrelenting horror, but a pale and broken husk of a woman running naked in front of their home, trying desperately to take flight.
we've all been there.
Yeah, I mean,
just when you're naked, something
that's a
happened.
good
Yeah.
Tuesday bender.
Yeah, really.
In front of the ex's house,
Yeah.
running
Yeah.
naked,
There you
trying
go.
to fly.
Flapping your arms around.
It's just what happens.
Not taking off.
You're at the lake, you drink too much, and then the next thing you know, you're running on the beach trying to think that you're going to fly, and you can't.
And you
happens.
can't.
And you can't, yeah.
Or then you can.
That is the human condition in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean,
Naked, sad, probably drunk,
yeah.
trying to
Flapping your
fly,
arms.
There you
not
go.
succeeding.
Yeah, just laying there, just
Oh,
upset and seeking vengeance.
Bukowski wrote it first.
Yes.
Love is a witch from hell.
Oh my God.
Just
And other
say, yeah.
assorted poems from
Yeah,
Mark
Mark-
Stowers.
yeah.
Although her powers ceased to work when she approached the Mendoza home, her thirst for revenge remained unquenched. Again and again she would return, no longer frightening, merely pitiful, until eventually, much to the relief of the family inside, she lost the will to even try. The witch that lost the will to terrify small
So she
innocent
would just
children.
show up,
Kind of
she
a
would fly
bummer.
down and then turn into naked,
and then
her,
be running
and then
around
just run
naked.
around flapping and being like, fucker. One day, you. And then she just stopped showing up.
Basically, this happened over the course of about 3 months. So this is a hellified ordeal.
I mean, the family's probably glad to see, like, okay, well, she's naked, she's running out, she's leaving. But just imagine, like, from her perspective, she's like, God damn it, I was so close. And now, every time I get here, I'm the sweet Talon woman. The next thing you know, poof, I'm naked. I'm confused, and I can't have no power.
This leaves me with a mixed bag of emotions. Because on one hand, I feel for kids, and I feel for George and Rita and the two unnamed sisters and the grandmother and the grandfather.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone that didn't deserve fucking to be punished for Juan's evil dick. I feel bad because you have 3 months of just horror. On the other hand, in this desperately unfair patriarchal environment, where fucking a guy can cat around, say a confession, and move on with his life happily, and this, until that very moment, utterly devout woman, basically being fucked, just screwed, everything she wanted in life gone. She is justified in her revenge. Like in a satisfying movie, Juan gets his, and either she goes down because the flames of vengeance consume her from the inside out, or somehow she gets redeemed. Yeah. But in this story, it just ends sad. Innocent people got scared. A woman had her life ruined, and Juan gets to fuck his way into oblivion and doesn't give shits because he had enough money to spend it on a more powerful witch to do more powerful
And I feel like
magic.
that's not going to stop him to keep banging his way through Venezuela.
No, clearly no.
This is not going to stop
All he has
Juan
to
and
go
his
to
notorious dickery. This
the
is
old
not gonna
witch on the
happen.
hill and just get more fucking curses.
Yeah, he could really just keep doing this, and he's like, all right, I got enough money to fend off these witches. Don't worry about herpes or anything, but witches be cursed.
Yeah.
You can't get me. Really.
But the satisfying
crosses the wrong
thing
one.
would be like his personal thing. Like there was a djinn. You make a deal, but like in the end, it solves a problem. But then there's a turn and say, I don't know, his dick doesn't work anymore. Or like something
Like that's super irony.
you need to have that.
Yeah.
I don't know, honestly, if that's how it works. Because we don't, I mean, none of us are experts
No,
in
I'm
magic.
saying it, like-
But we were raised with enough Twilight Zones and just Western fiction tells you, don't fuck around with this shit because careful what you wish for. You get it,
you pay a
but you
price.
get it with that terrible twist, like Chris was saying. And so that's one of the many reasons I would never fuck around with something like this. But it seems like in this case, I don't know how it all worked out. Christina now lives in the United States, and she went to the house and she saw the talisman hanging on the door.
Still there.
And the family told her these stories when she was young, when she was a child.
Oh,
She
wow.
heard firsthand witness accounts, and like I say, so generously shared them. So thank you again, Christina.
Oh, thank you. No, that's awesome.
And to me, it was a fascinating tale because what I found interesting about it, besides the obvious aspect of it's a horror film with this unrelenting siege, this nightmarish siege, it's a Hong Kong sorcery battle
totally,
film with witches against witches, and ultimately it's a tragedy where just old school machismo fueled super Catholic culture biases towards the man so much, and a woman who just believes and falls in love can get just, I mean, basically what is left to this woman at this point, she was saying, is prostitution or witchcraft. You make your money doing spells and doing this stuff, or you're on the streets because you are not going to find a good Catholic husband, at least in this small community.
It's crazy. That was 1997.
Yeah, it's not. We're not talking 1907.
Still, is I don't know anything about Venezuela. Is it still like that? Like how it's super Catholic or Christian, where like if you do that shit, like you're fucked.
The old section of the town, she was saying, that house finally got refurbished. Apparently, it was tore down and rebuilt. And once it was rebuilt, a lot of the weird stuff stopped happening because, as I mentioned briefly in the beginning of this, she was saying in this old section that had this 1700s architecture and early 1800s architecture. And she sent me some great pictures, which I'll of course include in the article when we put it up.
Nice.
Apparently, like the ghosts went with it. Like you don't usually hear that. Some people are of the belief that like ghosts are of the land, and no matter what you build there, be it a sweet glass pyramid or whatever the fuck you're going to throw,
it's
the ghost will
constantly
stay.
haunted.
But there's another school of thought which indicates that it's kind of bonded to the architecture that was there. Now, ghost stories are different. She said this place is riddled with ghost stories. She said that wasn't even the only family she knew that lived on that street that had a problem with fucking witches on the roof.
Oh, dude.
Which is just troubling.
What the fuck?
It's terrible for like property value. Like when you're your Zillow listing is like, well, there's a couple witches here yearly, and we deal with it.
I mean, only one family was tormented for months.
Just imagine being a teenager in that neighborhood, and you're just like, man, I want to hang out tonight with my boys, but it's fucking witch season, dude. You got fucking witches everywhere.
I know, witch
I
F.
dodged chlamydia and caught a witch.
Can you imagine? You just look down the street and there they are, just swooping around. You're like, well,
man,
it's like
not going that way.
The cruises are fucked, huh?
I know.
Mendoza's just got rid of theirs, and now look at them.
I
Yeah, it's a tough time to be in the old town tonight.
Yeah, this is an interesting story. It's kind of cool too because it ties back to like Christianity and like obviously black magic and witchcraft.
And what is interesting
and
too, because one of the first questions I asked was whether or not this related to like voodoo or macumba or things like that, and she pointed out something that I thought was really interesting. Again, she went above and beyond. That this part of Venezuela was basically colonized by third sons, the third son of a landowner that didn't really have rights of inheritance. So they weren't super rich.
Huh.
They were mostly Caucasian, and they had no real financing for or need for in this region slaves. So it wasn't an infusion of African tribal traditions and Christianity and Catholic traditions that kind of evolved into what we know of as voodoo.
Right.
It's basically the indigenous Indians to that region and almost strictly speaking, reversed Catholic ritual.
Huh.
So that's a whole other breed of
That's
magic
just
than what you're
weird,
used to.
yeah.
Right.
So it was really fascinating. It was kind of an eye opener for me because again, I don't ever pretend to be an expert in that. I'm a monster and alien guy usually, but I found that absolutely fascinating. And so that part I found really intriguing. And then the next part is just how matter of fact it all is. Like, or you go to the priest. The priest is like, he fucking deserves it. He's a dick. And then you're
Right.
like, yeah, but the rest of us don't. Well, you should have raised him better. There's kids in the house. Here's a bottle of holy water.
Yeah.
Rub it on the rafters.
Yeah.
Still not doing it. It's like, and she was saying too that like a strong witch is stronger than your average priest. Like it goes up level and level after level. And like a Monsignor might be stronger than this witch, but like a
Right.
super witch.
Yeah, that
and then the
doesn't-
male,
what
the
the fuck?
brujos are much more rare. But those are considered the powerful. Male witches are considered to be the most powerful. But that's a whole other level of fucking magic.
Wow.
And there's this crazy hierarchy where people, like I say, will go and get a candle from a bruja to, you know, I don't know, maybe help with the financial situation of their family, but still faithfully go to church every Sunday. And the two aren't considered to be that paradoxical.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but
So they
they-
kind of coexist together.
But if you fully
Right.
embrace that side, like she says, witches still sometimes go to church on Sunday. Like and the church is not like horny to excommunicate witches. They know they would be
Right.
stirring up a fucking cauldron of shit, pun intended.
It doesn't make sense.
But yeah, it's a crazy
You can't. I mean,
environment.
The source, it's once. If they're both doing magic or spells, it's clearly there's one source that they believe then it must be coming from. So, like, how could the source?
And now, what source are you referring to?
Well, if they're Catholic, then you're praying to fucking Yahweh. I mean, that's your deal. You are a cleric, and that's where that power comes from.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, clearly, if you're a witch and still Catholic,
Which is, I guess, again, because like I mentioned in the article, what blows my mind is that, you know, Exorcist came out in 73. So we were raised watching it, you know, through the 80s and whatever. You think, all right, the demon wins for a while, but if the priest, Monsignor, whatever, believes enough, he will win because God's power is universal and he is the ultimate creator. Ergo, everything dies in, you know, the shining light of his presence. That's evil. But it seems like they're dealing with it in a much more practical way. It's like, I don't have the skill set. This one local parish priest is like, this is beyond my fucking pay grade.
Right.
It's not like he can be a super conduit for all of God's power. It's like, you better move up here, or move up there. And then finally, when they're like, all right, yeah, she can't land on the roof anymore and she can't like slam into the door and lose her nails there, but we still can't go out at night and get like some fucking groceries or buy some diapers or whatever the fuck you want to do anytime after dark.
Right.
And so they felt like they didn't go higher up into the church. They went to a super powerful witch.
The anti-witch. witch.
I can't. It doesn't. Being raised Catholic, I doesn't make sense to me.
That's what I think it's.
I'm not saying it. I'm just saying I cannot partition that in my mind. Those two.
Right.
But that's why I love it, because it realigns my thinking too. Because I am a Reformed Catholic. I mean, like we've mentioned before, Chris and I were alumni of Catholic school. I was an altar boy growing up. I definitely do not consider myself Catholic anymore, but I am a theist. And I do believe that there is a powerful entity, and I do believe in good and evil and all sorts of things. Not going to get into my own personal shit anymore. I just have a hard time, like Chris was saying, rationalizing a world where God is not the ultimate power, but it's fascinating to see one in a practical application where it's like, yeah, sometimes darker magic is where you go. I mean, what's more powerful, the most powerful witch or the most powerful local Catholic
So I'm saying just the name
representative?
doesn't. If the source is the same, like I don't see one. Like, what is the deity saying? Where like, okay, you want to protect something that you're saying is evil or bad.
Right.
Okay, so you get the barrier. That's my magic that you're using.
Right.
But then the same source gives the other person the curse.
But it's not the same source. It's the same
no,
source inverted. So
but the source has to be the same.
Is it an alternate source?
They're saying that just because their thing is inverted,
Right.
they're still seemingly claiming that the source is the same. Since it's not satanic, where does it come from? It can't be good if you're going to church and you're a Catholic still.
It is considered bad. It is considered by the church to be bad.
Right.
It is black magic.
So
I didn't hear any specific, nor in any of the questions I asked Christina, was there a specific invocation of Satan. But it is considered to be not in line with the church's teachings.
Right, so that's why
they reverse the rituals.
It's a little vague there.
Yeah, because we live in a dichotomy culture. It is devil and God. It is
that's my only. I just don't know where they think it comes from. Then what are you actually getting to? If it's not coming from there, then why are you going to church? If you're getting your source of magic from somewhere that's the opposite of good God, which is the evil God. I mean,
so now you're going into Prince of Darkness territory, which was less about God and the devil and more about God and anti-God.
So besides that, I mean, ultimately with the story, it's kind of neat because this is our second time dealing with a witch here, and we got a lot of similarities.
Oh yeah,
tons of similarities to the other case of the flying things in Mexico City.
The forms taken.
Yeah.
Tattered rags floating above the ground.
Right.
Same in both the case of the police officer that was attacked in the shadow of that mountain, and what's happening in front of the Mendoza house.
Right.
Assuming a vulture-like body with a pale human face and bright red eyes. That's exactly what the guard cops saw in Mexico in the cemetery. Yep. It's precisely what's on the Mendoza's roof, and they're not. I don't think they're interrelated because we're hearing a family story passed to a family friend and then given to us.
Right, just related by witchcraft alone.
And that happened before the Mexico City thing. Yeah. So you're right. That is a fantastic corroboration.
Yeah, totally.
In terms of like these mythologies. And when I asked her like why a bird specifically, she's like, maybe that's what her grandmother knew how to transform into. Different people have different magical skill sets. So some can maybe turn into like large dogs, others can turn into other things. It could be because that
maybe the
served
birds
the
at
purpose.
The entry level morphing thing. Maybe?
I mean, she seemed to learn this pretty quick. I didn't get a specific because she didn't know the specific timetable between when the spurning happened and the witch showed up.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're talking about a couple months, a year.
Yeah, that's
I don't
true.
know what
they didn't say.
I mean, I see the '80s training montage.
I was just thinking that
set to Survivor,
exactly,
where she's doing wizard shit, doing wizard bench presses, doing whatever the fuck you have to do.
Easy way out. She's just reading weird books and
Yeah, there's a couple weird funny things. She tries to like levitate something, and the grandma comes in like, oh no, work on the talons, and then she's like, fine. She has talons, and then like, all right, get the fucking wings going.
How fucking weird is that? Talons at the end of the wings and where your talons would be on your feet.
You need you
need 2 sets of talons.
Yeah, man, you gotta attack
of course,
motherfuckers.
Twin talon double attack.
Yeah,
That's terrifying.
You're trying to terrify Juan and his nefarious dick, so you need to fucking get after that shit.
Yeah, fucking Juan. I'm telling you, that guy.
Why
He's the villain
didn't they
of the story.
try to do something in between during the 3 months? Like they know who it is.
Right.
Why didn't they go to try to?
I mean, what are you going to do? Call the
know,
cops?
Man. Yeah,
track her down and fucking do something.
You have a daylight raid.
You have all daylight. You have all daylight to track her down.
Yeah,
I don't know, knock her out, tie her up, talk to her, do something.
Do you face a witch on which ground like during the day? Like what do you do?
That's
like,
a really good question.
What are they doing during the day?
I mean, you had all this time. They're like just like sitting there waiting.
Or maybe they're just like, we don't want to fuck with it because it'll get worse. Juan already.
How much worse gonna get?
All.
It's been like weeks of just her, so I'm like.
All right, in all fairness, we're dealing with a neighborhood that occasionally has witch visitation, right?
All right, yeah.
So it's not entirely unheard of. Maybe they thought, the Millers down the street, their witch was gone in half a week. We're just going to wait this out. It's going to be fine.
No,
it's going to be fine.
It's like stink bugs around here.
Exactly.
Like, it's stink bug
season of the witch.
Damn it.
Like a mild witch infestation
Yeah.
that you just think it's going to be passing with, the season. And then suddenly you realize, oh no, it's like termites. They're gnawing at it. They're not giving this up.
They're digging in.
You go to the priest. You get basically the equivalent of a spiritual bug zapper.
Right.
But it's not enough to kill. It's just enough to annoy.
Yeah.
And then you're still like, well, fuck, this is still very inconvenient.
So are we going to go, I mean, it's kind of hard to break this one down, but is it a possibility that maybe this family was duped by this anti-witch witch? Like, is it a possibility that maybe what they were experiencing wasn't necessarily what they thought that it was? Could it be?
Well,
absolute belief is a very powerful
it
thing.
gets into belief and faith. Could something be going on and they were sort of not saying that it was like a hoax, because there's no reason to hoax this whatsoever.
Oh, I don't think it was a hoax.
No, you're just terrifying yourself.
I think
for
they're
3 months.
genuinely afraid.
I'm just wondering if it's some kind of psychological thing possibly that happened to them, or if it's just a coincidence of all these different things happening where they're like, oh shit, it's a witch. I mean, it's kind of far-fetched because the fucking witch is on the roof.
Yeah.
So you can't be like, well, it's a coincidence. It's just a vulture that happened to show up and looks like the girl that Juan banged.
for 3 months?
For 3 months.
Christina was saying that she really felt the sincerity of the eyewitnesses telling her the story. Obviously, she's a rational person. She was just relating the story. So I'm not going to impose on her a belief either way. She was just giving up a story. But she believed that they believed it. And when they offered to let her touch the talon, she didn't want to. Of course, she was a kid. And sagely, like
Smart
a kid, after that story, fascinated her as it would any of us. If we were kids and we went to someone's house and they said, oh, there's been a witch attack and la la, I would pour over it too. And just like her, she's like, oh yeah, Mom and Dad, you're going to be picking me up. There's going to be no sleepovers.
Yeah.
Oh no,
you
I
don't
would never
go there.
walk on the street. I
You don't
would
go there for
not
summer
acknowledge
vacation
anybody.
at all. No, like it's
in the
spring break. Let's go to
neighborhood.
Venezuela. No, let's stay here where there's no witches in the U.S. apparently, or maybe they are and we just don't know about it.
You guys fucking saw one literally last week.
Last week, yeah. I mean,
how are you going to decry witches?
I mean, maybe it was a balloon, but we're going to say for the sake of Instagram stories and whatnot that maybe it was a witch.
Maybe.
I think it's fascinating. Yes, she said it could have been a sloth or a possum scuttling around on the roof. There are rational explanations, but they saw what they said they saw. And the whole family claimed to have like peeked out the door and it slammed in, and she saw the door. And she saw the damage to the door, and she saw this talon, which she said basically looked like an extraordinarily large rooster talon.
So there isn't.
black.
This isn't a situation where something could have been just misconstrued or misidentified. This was it's just not,
parts
power
of
of
it could
faith.
have
parts
been.
of it possibly,
could
but
certainly influence things, but
Right.
for the most part, I don't believe it was a hoax perpetrated on them. I don't think this was a jilted girlfriend that had like this fancy special effects house come in
You
from
think
LA.
they should like a hang glider?
just crazy puppets and fucking
Dude, it's like
wire work.
next level crazy ex girlfriend.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden,
glider.
like they got to the mega witch, and she get like the talon was like a hang glider repellent. Just she couldn't show up anymore. Every time the hang glider got close, it would like fall. And why was she naked then?
Yeah, it's true. You know,
Flying around naked on a hang glider?
Yeah, I mean, I guess girls can get crazy with stuff like that, but that seems like an extra level of crazy that probably no one's going to go to.
Speaking of that, why didn't she just like wear like a trench coat and like sneak up to the door during the day when she wasn't a vulture and just take the talon and just throw it away or something?
I don't know.
I
mean, maybe that's how
Is
magic
there like
works.
magical barriers or something?
There
don't
is
know.
the implication, kind of like a vampire, that it may not be able to cross the threshold
Oh, gotcha.
without certain permissions.
Zappery.
So I think maybe that combined with the extra protections offered by the priest and then the super repellent that just and I don't, and you know, that's the other thing too. She didn't know the answer to these things because she was a kid when she asked these questions.
Right.
So when I was like what kind of fucking radius did this talon work in? Like, was it like a super vulture 20 feet away?
That's what I mean.
15 feet,
There's a lot of
400
questions,
yards,
and that's I keep
3
thinking
miles?
of like things and reasons and questions.
Like if you
and-
just carry it and you like walk around with it, do you have like a cool bubble around you that she can't get you?
Yeah, and every time
Right.
Juan leaves the house, is he still in jeopardy? Not that I
I
fucking
wonder
care.
if Juan's
That's what I
trying to
mean,
get
like,
the fucking talon. Like, hey, I'm going out tonight. Can I borrow the talon? And they're like, no, you fucking asshole.
That's what I'm
Put your
saying.
dick
Like,
away, Juan, goddammit.
Or is it like one of those things like a restraining order from beyond, where once you have it,
That's
it's
great.
established,
Yeah.
and you just can't get
Right.
near these fuckers,
You
no matter
can't.
what.
No, once it's established, that's
the
it.
talent seems to be area of effect.
It does.
It does, yeah. Yeah,
But
it
we
does.
just, we just don't know.
Yeah.
But you're right. It does seem like
Right.
that.
Huh.
It's fucking
It's pretty cool.
terrifying and
It's-
fascinating, and ultimately, like I say,
Yeah.
really fucking sad.
I guess I'm thinking of it in terms of like a movie. Like realistically, like if the talent works
Right.
and she still tries, and like
Right.
like for a week later, she's just out there like running around flapping her arms like naked, like you son of a bitch. Like take the talent during the day and just like look, just give up.
Maybe
like,
maybe she can't get near
just
it.
do
Maybe if it's some
something.
sort of magical barrier, she just
but she's
can't.
somewhere at least close to it somehow, so you can
Right,
get at least
right.
and
But-
you know where she lives.
maybe once she becomes a witch, she's a witch 24/7. Like you don't maybe
Oh,
ever
there's no
become a
turning
witch.
back, right?
So it's not like during the day she's like normal Delilah doing her thing,
Right.
and then at night the super witch comes out. Like maybe
No, I'm
once
saying
you're there,
I'm not
you're
meaning
there.
like I'm saying just the transformation, not that she's actually something.
But you're right. I would be curious to know, like, I mean, I guess you probably don't send cops over. What do you do? What do you do?
That's when you got to deal with it personally.
Yeah,
you can't, or find other.
I'm
witches.
assuming that culturally it's understood that witchcraft is just a part of the culture. It's just there. So I'm assuming since everyone's kind of on board, maybe it's one of those things where it's like we just don't talk about it. We go to church, but we don't talk about this witchcraft stuff. But if things pop up, you got to deal with it yourself because we as a collective community aren't going to deal with this. So maybe it's like an unsaid kind of underbelly of whatever spirituality you think they have going on there.
Yeah, it seems like it was fairly well known in the sense. I know exactly what you're saying. I think you're right.
And we heard even with in Mexico with the flying fiends in Mexico City, we heard a bunch of different. We got emails from a lot of people that were like, "Yeah, no, witchcraft in Mexico was just a thing." Like,
yeah, it's just that's what I mean. It's just a part of day-to-day life.
It's there, and people deal with it, and you know, which I mean, I guess it's kind of cool, really. Like,
yeah,
you know?
I mean, if it's not used to literally paralyze a family in utter abject horror for months on end.
Yeah. They're good parables to not like be dicks to each other and be nice because then you get witch attacks.
You have the story of Juan and his felonious penis that you're like, listen, this is what happens.
Juan and the felonious penis.
Yeah, this is what happens when you're fucking throwing your dink around town. Like, shit's going to go bad for you and you're going to get a witch. And
I still like to think Juan got his at some point.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's no one saying that said witch that got banished from the Talon, like Chris was saying, it seems like a proximity, like a perimeter
area of effect.
Unenchanter or whatever, that she didn't study her tits off and maybe roll up on super old hag and be like, oh, bitch, we got words now.
Yeah.
Now I'm the main motherfucker on the block.
She's going to have the white robes on now.
Yeah, you got like a witch fight.
And then when that happens, pray for Juan, because it is on.
Yeah, shit.
His life is dunzo clunzo.
Well, this is a pretty neat story. I think this is pretty cool. It's good to visit some witches again, and you know,
it's the season.
There was no, it's true.
It's true. It's October.
Yeah, it's pumpkin spice season, guys.
It is indeed.
Jeez, nothing I hate worse than pumpkin spice.
Always pumpkin spice season for me.
I can't even fuck with it. I just can't do it.
Because you're mean.
Because I'm what?
Because you're mean.
Oh yeah. Well, because I'm here celebrating International Podcast Day all by myself, so
what are we fucking doing right now?
I know.
Unbelievable.
I asked you before what I should do, and you didn't answer me.
The attitude, I don't think that your heart was in it. I think that might have been the problem.
Your heart isn't in it.
That's true. It probably isn't, honestly. I'm just really here for all that T-Public money. Make sure you get yourself some T-Public merch at our T-Public shop. We get a pretty sweet cut.
Rolling it in.
Bring it in.
We're going to reinvest it in sweet pins.
So far, we've managed to get beer, whiskey, and some cookies.
We love it all.
Yes, thank you
we love
so
it. But if
much.
anyone has like a Jeep or like a
my
new
God,
phone,
really?
that'd be cool.
Take it down
you know what?
A Jeep for Christopher and a new phone for you.
I don't want a Jeep.
Guys.
I don't want a vehicle.
I'll take the Jeep.
Want it down a little, buddy.
Oh,
all right?
Wow.
Someone's getting a witch.
Mark's going to invoke a witch.
Just saying.
All right, cool. So any closing thoughts with this story, guys?
Yeah, don't be a dick. And then you won't get a witch.
That's it.
All
I mean,
right.
this is a simple karmic tale.
Yeah.
And you know what? Don't be a fucking shitty patriarchal society that's unfair towards women. How's that?
All right, yeah, I was gonna say, why don't we like take the burden of the sex is sex, man. If you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it.
Absolutely.
Don't look down on people for it.
Juan could be a shitty player. That's fine. It's the culture that ruins a woman because Juan's a shitty player.
Yeah, if you're gonna.
I'm not saying Juan doesn't have he understands the society he lives in. So when he's playing this game, the burden falls on him too.
Oh yeah, totally.
But come on, society.
Yeah, let's. I know this is 1997 was a long time ago. I know people will. We all were.
It was
shorter
21 years ago.
It was a long time for some people. Okay,
for 21-year-olds.
Exactly. So I don't know, man. Maybe just step a little bit into the future and kind of get out of that weird. It's kind of a. I don't know. It seems a little archaic for 1997 to be like,
it's more than a little.
You're ruined. Your chastity is gone. Like, all right, calm down, dude.
I am secretly rooting for this witch to have had a comeback story.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works. I don't know.
Look,
some sort
around.
of super redemption where she found a good man and her faith in the Lord and just went back to a place where she didn't have to fucking run naked on a lawn, fucking.
I don't know, man. It sounds like she
screaming and
went.
trying
It
to
sounds like
fly.
she went all in.
Yeah, but you can go all in and still fucking.
Is there any coming
Right,
back?
but
from
she was
that?
still like a novice though, so I feel like there
You
was like
can untrain wreck a little. I mean,
think?
unless it's a full-on, like, everyone's limbs are hanging off, demolishing train wreck.
Right,
That's pretty
right.
bad. It's a pretty bad scene. But
All
really,
right.
she didn't seem to hurt anybody. She just scared a lot of people.
Yeah.
Embarrassed herself in the streets.
But I mean, didn't she like hand over her soul and psyche to like the dark
she
one?
opened it up to assault from really nasty shit, but not necessarily to the point where, and maybe it's just me being wishful thinking, that it was corrupted completely.
But she did transform into a weird vulture witch demon.
I
thing.
do. I
So-
know. I'm grasping at optimistic straws here.
Dude, I'm with you, but I'm just saying, man. I hope that she didn't go too far in her revenge for Juan.
Oh, she's completely Maleficent in a fucking black shack in the middle of the
Yeah.
Andes. I think you get chills when you even fly over it in a plane
fighting Pazuzu right now in hell for his
Yeah.
spot.
for supremacy.
It's like a tournament style
Yeah.
down there to get the spot. All right, cool. Awesome. It was a great story. Thank you very much, Christina. That was definitely a fun little tale right there. I like it. That was good.
Because
It was
it's
cool.
a tale for us.
Yeah.
For
yeah.
everyone involved, unfun.
Yeah, no.
Unfun
No,
like
this
a
is definitely
Jawbreaker
an
album.
experience that you definitely do not want to live through. So let that be a lesson to everyone out there. Be cool.
Be cool.
So there you have it. Thank you for joining us, the Kryptonaut Podcast. As always, be sure to rate and review the show on the iTunes and the Apple Podcast app. Stick around after the outro music. We're going to be doing some reviews. Be sure to follow us on the social medias, the social meds, the Instagrams, the Twitters, the Facebooks. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Totally.
See you later.
Don't be a Juan. Do what you do. Do you. Don't be a Juan.
Don't be one.
Don't be a one.
And that's when to grow up.
Ah, yes! All right, cool. So here we go. We got some reviews. We had to take a little bit of a cookie break.
Yeah, we did. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you, Laura. We, I think we almost demolished a good portion of them. It looks like they're almost gone.
We put a good dent.
Yeah, there's a pretty good dent. We might
Fat
have.
fucks who like beards and cookies.
There might be some for next week. Maybe Chris can have some for breakfast.
Yep.
He's literally sitting.
Yep.
As we're doing these reviews, Chris is sitting in front of a pile of cookies with his Mutter Museum coffee, crushing them. So here we go. These are coming. This review is coming to you at the Apple Podcast app. We got awesome show, 5 stars, Big Low Moon. My brother showed me the podcast the other day, and me and my fiance have been hooked ever since. Every time we get in the car, it's the first thing that we put on. Keep up the awesome work. And if you get a chance, do a Puckwudgie episode.
Oh.
Thank you, Big Low Moon.
That is a creepy little
Oh,
critter.
yeah.
Excellent. Cool. So, Robert, what do you got?
I got a review from Ryan Holbrook.
All right.
And he says, if you like deep dives into the weird, interspersed with deep cut references to comics, MODOK and Alpha Flight,
Nice.
nicely done. This is the podcast for you. Yes, it is, Ryan.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you very much.
I'm just glad he enjoyed the MODOK fucking reference.
MODOK.
Not
Because
many
that is
people.
obscure as the dills.
I mean, we could have brought in like Armanzola, but we stuck with MODOK, so there you go. We got Oral Excellence, Oral Excellence, 5 stars, Clan Placebo. I can't read. Like many others, I enjoy basically everything about this podcast. I was cautious to approach it first because there are so many cryptoid and UFO duds on other media. But I'm glad I made this decision to listen to these guys. The fact that Mark is a metalhead and makes so many metal references makes this podcast even more amazing than it was before.
Wow.
Finally-
You're the only metalhead,
Well,
Mark?
I know I would say Chris.
Really?
Well, Chris is a metalhead. Rob's a metalhead. We're all metalheads.
That is true.
You know.
We do love metal.
We do.
With a smattering of punk.
Okay. Well, you gotta keep the punk there.
You gotta keep it alive.
Yeah, keep the hardcore there as well.
Thank you
so.
for that fine fucking
Yeah,
review.
thank you very much. All right, Robert, what do we got?
We've got Alex Chauvin. I started listening at work, and I now totally love this podcast. These guys are genuinely funny and not in a way that is scripted. Listening, I get to hear great information on different cryptids with hilarious side comments that make the topic slightly less terrifying. As a person who is incredibly interested in history, both human and supernatural, LOL, this podcast makes my work day awesome. You make our work night awesome.
Yes,
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. All right, funny and the greatest, 5 stars from Lame Safi. One of the best podcasts I've found. Their funny banter helps me through my graveyard shift. If I could, I would give them 100-star rating.
Aw.
I would let them narrate my life story. Keep up the good job, guys.
Shucks.
Boom.
Clarissa Whittlecox.
All right.
5 stars, smiley face. This show is well-researched and crazy entertaining. I have listened to episodes about topics I'm not usually interested in just because I know the guy's take on it will be worth a listen. And I can't help but jam to that sweet theme music. Potosi Sheep Slayer is my favorite episode. Highly recommended. Thank you, Clarissa.
Awesome.
No, you're welcome.
There you go. Yeah, the Potosi Sheep Slayer is quickly becoming a favorite of everybody, actually. Everyone's loving
It's an
that episode. It is.
awesome
It's good.
interaction.
It is. All right.
Except for the poor family that was fucking ruined.
Yeah. Oh, we got best podcast ever. 5 stars. Ace of Spades 1944.
Damn.
Hands down my favorite podcast out of any podcast and genre I listen to. Whenever a new episode comes out, I interrupt whatever I was listening to before just to hear these guys get drunk and talk about cryptids.
Yeah. Well,
Then goes on to say,
Good point.
hell or space, hell
Oh
or
my
space,
fucking-
hell or
Oh
space.
my God.
Keep it up, guys.
I
Awesome.
love
That was great.
I forgot about our hellers. You got so mad. Rob got so mad.
Yes, I did.
I didn't even normally I wouldn't join in on something like that, but I was with
No,
Mark.
Hell or
on
Space was a hit too.
Hell or
so.
Sons of bitches.
Heller space.
All right, Rob, what do you got?
Francisco Franco. I'm selective when it comes to podcasts, delving into the unexplained, so when I ran across Cryptonauts on Spotify, I don't know why I decided to give them a try. Could have been the name or the illustration, who knows. Now I find myself binging on it like a glam band through an 8-ball.
Yeah.
That is a
Jesus
beautiful
Christ. That's awesome.
analogy. That was so wonderful. It
That's one
choked
of the
me
best
up.
compliments I think we've ever gotten.
The guys are funny and it's well researched. Definitely recommended. Thank you, Francisco.
Thank you very much. All right, so rounding out this week's reviews, we got Awesome Pod featuring my new best friends, 5 stars from Lobita. Stumbled on this podcast when looking for stories of high strangeness that I didn't already know about, and wow, did these fellas deliver. Thank you, Rob, Chris, and Mark, for giving me all the information I need to talk a little too loudly in public so people leave me alone. P.S. I feel obligated to mention the audio quality. It's fabulous. Excellent job, Christopher.
Sweet.
Good job.
Yes, Chris.
Cool. So there you go. That is this week's ratings and reviews. And as always, be sure to leave us those ratings and reviews, and we will get to them on the show. And there you have it. And we're talking to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you all.
We're going to go eat more cookies?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're gonna go eat more
I
cookies.
never stopped.
Jesus Christ. I know.
You got more cookies.
No, they're the same ones.
I don't know, man. Is it the
I
same
had, to
chocolate
get,
chip?
I had to get water, yeah.
Okay, you sure?
Yeah, there's less chocolate chip than peanut butter, so I'm,
All right, we got to figure out who's keeping the tin.
we already had custody.
Super
remember?
custody.
Okay, well, we have a friend who's a judge. We'll talk to him. Man, we'll be talking to you soon.
No.